Native Land Podcast starring Angela Rye, Tiffany Cross, and Andrew Gillum has just made its appearance on iHeartRadio. They're out here to take some of those ad revenue dollars that you know are going to be coming in during the Democratic primary. No, there won't be a Democratic primary. During the general election. So that's the whole idea. So that's what they put together for. And that's not me talking. That's the press releases from the iHeartRadio and Reasoned Choice Media. Reasoned Choice Media. So this podcast, I've seen the trio make a couple of appearances, one on Tamron. They've been in a couple places promoting their new podcast, which there's only been 2 episodes of it so far. 2 episodes so far. And it's supposed to be, something for the people. Something for the people. So here the thing is, man, and I guess no one else is going to say it. I guess I'm going to have to say it. And it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that I have to come down and be, King Kong and stomp on the little straw house. But let me say this. When you had an opportunity to speak to Tiffany Cross, we had an opportunity to address the elephant in the room with Tiffany Cross, you did not take that opportunity. Instead of questioning her and saying, Tiffany, why did you make harsh statements about black men? Why did you throw black men under the bus the way that you did? Instead, you bigged her up, you pretended there was no issue, and that anybody who criticized her is loony, Republican, or a sellout or a coon. But that's not the case at all. I know I'm not the only person that remembers this.
Fundamental problem with the Democratic Party is that white strategists are controlling the money, are controlling the strategy.
Yeah.
Yes, have to build up a program so when elections come, now you properly prep.
Yeah. And invest in black media, brother. We know that.
Black-owned media, not black
media.
targeted.
Black-owned media.
Absolutely.
Cliff, listen, I think Roland made a really legitimate point here. I will say, a lot of black men sometimes feel like they're ignored or they're put down, particularly sometimes even by black women in the media. So this is not that. But I do hear Roland's point that felt ignored. But you feel ignored, and then you go over to the other side. The oppressed feel oppressed. So then you go and try to align with the oppressor. So I'm not putting black men down, but sometimes it's like, well, some of you Kevin Samuels following Tariq Nasheed quoting people, please look at the truth and see what's happening and get in line with some of the black women. Is majority, like he said, vote Democrat. But that margin of people who can be plucked away from your people and go advance policies that harm your people, I just don't understand that.
Yeah, and you've got 3 things that wind up happening. And first, let me shout out, as Roland mentioned, is Alpha Phi Alpha.
Tiffany Cross is hazardous. She plays fast and loose with the truth. And she just throws around daggers. It was unnecessary to go after the very, very small percentage of black men who may vote Republican. It's like 10%. Meanwhile, that means that 90% of black men who are voting Democratic Party. But still, we had to hear from Tiffany Cross about us being the weakest link, about us not supporting Stacey Abrams, her friend, which leads me to my point. When you know that you're wrong, why can't you just come out and admit it? So Tiffany Cross did what Tiffany Cross does, which is lump everything into a bucket and then throw the bucket out. And in this particular case, Roland was sitting there. Now, I've had disagreements with Roland. Roland should have checked her on this. He didn't, but he was quiet. Unlike this Jeff Albright guy and this other goofy guy, I don't know who this is. But that's the thing about the Democratic Party. They're so comfortable shitting on black men, it's ridiculous. There's no repercussions for it. Now, do you think a black man could get up there and throw a black woman under the bus and throw black women under the bus and there'd be no retaliation, no responses, no rebuttals? Hell no. There may be a few fringe movements or fringe activists out there, influencers who say negative things about black women, but they don't get coverage. They don't get speaking gigs. They don't make money out here. They're just fringe. Now, I don't want to sound like the Republicans coming out to you, Tiffany Cross, but Jesus Christ, you could have got out in front of this and cleared the decks. Instead, you double down, play victim, and hide your hand after you done threw all these rocks. And for the record, contrary to popular opinion by some of these folks, everything that Tiffany Cross did was not great. And there was not a time she threw black men under the bus. Like this one, they did a segment, her and Yvette Nicole Brown and this guy, Michael Harriot from The Root or wherever he's from, The Root. They were talking about the Oscar slap with Will Smith and Chris Rock. Listen to this crap.
And it's a problem in our community that men don't have the opportunity to express how they feel. And so it comes out often in aggression, not just on the Oscar stage, across the board, because they're not allowed to show their other emotions in the way women are. And I will die on this hill. So I think it's more about who they're getting to speak to, how they're working through their pains, what Chris went through as a kid. Come on. He should, that's a lot.
Yeah,
so
Chris was bullied. He was bullied.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
So this is a man who's almost 60 years old who was slapped by this other grown man. But since we have a black man on the panel, Michael, I'm curious your thoughts. I mean, we're saying this is like, from just men processing their emotions from that perspective. What's your take from that angle? Do you think that played a role here?
Yeah, I do. I think, it's interesting how, we've kind of delved back into Will Smith's background and his relationship with his wife, but not Chris Rock's, right? Like he has experienced bullying. He is from everyone in his life, right? And so, I can understand. And then what Yvette was talking about, having to, use.
I don't even know what you're trying to say, bruh. And I get what Nicole's saying. She's saying black men are brutes. We don't know how to control ourselves and that we're ultra violent. That's what she's saying. No pushback by this guy and no pushback by Tiffany Cross. So we got to overlook a lot of stuff with you, Tiffany. And you're not even being criticized for it. No one holds you accountable for it. You just put it out there on this white platform paid for by MSNBC, dumping on black men. Now, would you say the same thing about black women? Would you say that black women are ultra-violent, hyper-violent, masculine even? See, you would never say that. Why? Because you know better. And that's my whole point. I fought those people that interviewed you, Tiffany Cross. I fought those people that have commented on you and left this part out of the equation, which have deprived you of the ability to show contrition, remorse, or at least say, hey, my bad, guys, I got excited. But moving beyond that, because I don't want to stay there forever, you are a sister. I want to have love for you. I want to love this podcast. I want to embrace it. I don't want to hate on it, even though it seems like the same old people get all the opportunities. Here is why it doesn't matter what I think. It don't matter what I think because you guys are going to shoot yourselves in the foot by being too cozy with the Democratic Party. See, here's the thing with black folks in general that we're seeing across the landscape, because you guys are kind of new to rocking with the internet. Save for Angela Rye. She's been busy on the net. Let me tell you, the majority of black people don't care about parties. They care about solutions. They care about their pocketbooks. They care about what actually comes out, the results, and how those results impact their real lives. They ain't out there caping for Biden. They ain't out there caping for Trump. They're out there trying to get a cape to take care of their family. That's what black people are on. And you guys are going to do it. I know you guys are going to do this, no doubt. You're going to go out here. You're going to make it all about the Democratic Party. That's the whole reason why you threw black men under the bus. You threw us under the bus because we weren't sufficiently supporting Stacey Abrams, as if Stacey Abrams did not have to earn our vote. Roland Martin sat right there and he told you that a lot of black men got turned off by Obama. And you're like, why? As if Obama just is qualified or instantly gets our votes without having to earn them. By 2012, Obama had proven that he was not going to ride like he said he was going to ride in 2008. We elected him to do a job. He did not do that job. And he went in there, he got marriage equality done for the LGBTQ community, and he told black folks to pull their pants up. And you having such a short-sightedness not to recognize that's what Obama did, and that some of us, particularly black men, had a problem with it. And we held his ass accountable for that in 2012. The fact that you act like you have this selective memory proves my point further. I have no faith that this Native Land podcast will be nothing more than an outsourced program for the Democratic Party to shield, to sheepdog in voters, to support agendas without making substantive demands of the Democratic Party. So at the end of the day, this Native Land podcast was going to go down in the toilet. It's going to become just another leg, a more abrasive MSNBC Peacock type offering. And my last thing on this, the fact that none of them, Andrew Gillum, I don't expect Andrew Gillum to have a backbone at all. Angela Rye, I expected you to know better and do better and push more. But we're going to say this. What possessed you to form your mouth to say that if people vote for Democrats or if black men vote for Republicans, that we're joining the oppressor?
But I do hear Roland's point that felt ignored. But you feel ignored, and then you go over to the other side. The oppressed feel oppressed, so then you go and try to align with the oppressor.
Now, I have never voted Republican, but I'm not afraid to. But what makes you believe that the oppressor has a name tag? What makes you believe that only Republicans have racists in them? You don't believe that there's racism within the Democratic Party? You don't believe there's racism on both sides of the aisle? See, I know you do. But once again, got a puffy head, speak out of class, throw anything against the wall, and since you don't have to tread lightly when it comes to black men, because we have no power institutionally that you have to respect. You know your audience is largely black women who don't respect black men, that you were able to get away with that type of language. But it's the falsehood that you're preaching, that black men who would support a Republican or not vote at all, which is half the country, by the way, are somehow supporting the oppressor. Sister, this whole damn system is oppressive. To all of us, to everyone. If you ain't big money interests, we're all oppressed by this system. Black people are just oppressed in a very specific way. And I'm one of those people that do see race, and I do call race out. Please explain to me how it makes sense for you to actually push the narrative that the Republican Party somehow has racism cornered. Like they've cornered the market. They may have the most visibly recognized form of racism, but Democrats do the same shit. In fact, to many of us in this new wave of media, we recognize the Democratic Party being very specifically covert in their actions and also being more diabolical. Which would you prefer? The racist that tells you no niggas allowed, or the racist that says, hey, Jim, how you doing? And then as you walk away and leave, they laugh as you leave the room. Then they use the word nigger. Good thing that nigger left. See, I got a problem with both strands of racism. Folks out there that are listening to this show who want to see truly independent black media, these aren't independents, these are Democrat Party operatives. They owe the majority of their careers politically to what they've done for Democrats, and that's the team they play on. That's the side of the ball they line up on. And us, we're independents. We line up where it's most advantageous, where it makes the most sense, and where we're going to push the line each time. Because we're not your friends. We're your bosses. That's the attitude that we have here. But know this, guys. The Democratic Party does not get a pass at all. If anything, they owe us a debt, because without black voters, they would never be in office. That's the strength of your argument that you should bring to bear, instead of this backing into it and playing hitman as you go after your own people. Imagine disrespecting 90% of black men for 10% of black men who just have a difference of opinion about which liar they're going to go with. The liar in the blue tie or the liar in the red tie. They both lie. And if you can't admit that, if you don't respect that, If you don't see that, I don't see why people should clap about you coming back. Now, to be fair, there were points that Tiffany made in her latest podcast where she pointed out some things about MSNBC that I agree with, such as this.
My show to the very last show I did, it was a battle. Every single week, it was a battle to cover things that I wanted to talk about. The network's philosophy was Trump, 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 Trump. They wanted me to be part of the echo chamber, and I fought as hard as I could. When I would fight these battles, I know y'all know exactly what I mean. I was spoken to in the most condescending ways.
There were points that Tiffany made that made a lot of sense, like when she called out MSNBC for wanting her to go on a Trump derangement spree. You know, sort of like what they have most of their anchors doing all the time. Trump, 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 Trump. You know, because that's where the money was. She talked about that. And I clap for that. I clap for you not wanting to do the same old crap that they have everyone else doing, you know. But you do realize there's a price to pay for doing that. That's why you got a humble guy like me over here doing my own shit where I don't have to do that, right? So I don't disagree with everything that Tiffany Cross said in her statement in this episode about MSNBC and the reasons, the problems that she had with it. In fact, I agree with her on that point. And there was other parts that she brought up that were also interesting. Rashida Jones, which is the president of MSNBC, how they abruptly let her go after a segment that Tucker Carlson did in response to a segment she did about, I think it was truckers, and she called all truckers during the back in the 2020 shutdown and how the supply line was all crinkled up. And she said it was because of white truckers didn't want to do their jobs. Old white guys over 55 didn't want to drive trucks. It's just crazy. And Tucker did a segment and he cherry picked certain parts where she said things about white people and about white people being dangerous to black people and just on and on and on and on. So like, I get it. I get why Tiffany Cross would have an issue with what happened. I mean, they fired you. I get that. And look, and I respect the fact that you lost your job, and I respect the fact you think you were doing your job. But here's the thing. No one's held your ass accountable for throwing us under the bus. Yeah, I hear you. Tucker Carlson's garbage. But you work for a spineless organization called MSNBC, Comcast, and you should know they ain't going to go to bat for you. They don't go to bat for people, period. Melissa Harris Perry taught you that. So don't get me twisted. It's not like I'm up here like Candace Owens or one of these wacko Republican conservative type black conservatives that are like attacking sisters, you know, or Democrat, you know, whatever. I'm not doing that. I'm not aligned with that. I don't go with that. But what I do advocate for is that black men be treated with the same respect that we want to see black women treated with. And you did not do that, sister. You threw us under the bus, and I have a problem with that. And you did it to support Democratic Party over us. And without us, there is no Democratic Party. So it doesn't make sense to me. That's where I'm going. I got a problem accepting this nonsense, whether it's Tiffany Cross throwing black men under the bus or Jonathan Capehart crying crocodile tears about January 6th as if it's 9/11. Horrible.
Joining me now in studio is Michael Fanone, former D.C. Metropolitan Police Officer, Courage for America Council member, and author of Hold the Line, The Insurrection and One Cop's Battle for America's Soul. Officer Fanone, I'm going to try to get through this. Thank you for what you did 3 years ago today.
Yeah, I'm not saying that Tiffany Cross should have been fired. But what I am saying is, I know she should have chose different words when she spoke about black men. That's who I'm advocating for. And if it would have been a black man throwing black women under the bus like that, we all know it would have been a different story, wouldn't it? It would have been a different day in Cross Connect land, wouldn't it? Yeah. And we know Angela Rye would have spoke to it. You would have been corrected by your friends. But you could talk any old kind of way to us black guys. We don't matter, which is part of the problem. That's the big problem with the Democratic Party. They bite the hand that feeds them. So now they got to tighten their belt. And now they get to go hungry. That's a choice they made. All actions have a reaction. Black men are only reacting to the lack of concern and lack of attention that's been paid to our issues. Just like you can criticize black men can criticize black women for always going along with the Democratic Party without making demands of the Democrats, other than a seat for Ketanji Brown Jackson. We need more than that. I'm Tim Black. This has been another edition of Calling It Out with Tim Black. I'll see you on the next one, and until we do, don't you let nobody take your cornbread.
Tim Black's content hits different, don't it? Facts. Become a member of Tim's crew today. Subscribe, cut on all notifications. Those other channels are just too basic. Join us for more, and remember, it's a new day.